Today, I'm joined by Magi to play some friendlies and learn some things about being a top player in Melee. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a
Dope.
little late for these recordings, but I'm hyped.
Yeah,
I'm
that's my
hyped.
bad.
No, no,
If
no.
anyone knows me and anyone who's like done any sort of like thing on a schedule with me, they know about Magi time. It's whatever the schedule time is plus 30
Oh,
plus 10.
that wasn't my input. All right. So my first question, as per tradition, I know you've seen the Squid video, so you probably know the question. What got you into Melee as a game, and what got you into it competitively?
Okay, so when I was a kid, like really, really young, I went on a trip to Ohio because I was in Texas, but my dad's side of the family was in Ohio, and my cousins showed me the game super duper. Like, this is like barely when I had a conscience, basically. Um,
Okay.
and I remember I really liked the game because the Mario Brothers had a breakdance move as their down smash, and that was like a really big thing for some reason at the time for us. So I was super into it. And then eventually, like probably a couple years later, my parents got us the game, me and my brothers. And I was just a kind of a casual Smash fan for a long time. And fast forward to like 2013, I was a part of the Yu-Gi-Oh community and the speedrunning community. And there is a Yu-Gi-Oh YouTube person by the tag of like Pink Reaper One, and they talked about the Evo donation drive. And then Narcissa Wright was someone who talked about the documentary on stream.
Mhm.
And so both of those things kind of like I watched Evo and like I was like interested, but I didn't really understand like what was going on. Like I just didn't get it. And then the documentary put everything into perspective. And then all of a sudden, like I was super duper interested. And but funnily enough, I actually didn't have my copy of Melee after I watched the documentary.
Mhm.
And I had to it's because like I gave away my copy of Melee to some kid because like he didn't have many GameCube games. I was like, oh well, if I ever like take Smash seriously, I'm just gonna play Brawl, so it's fine.
Uh-huh.
And then so that ended up being a little bit awkward. But then I found out about PM, and it kind of worked out anyway because eventually I switched to like Link for a casual main. And I just kind of stuck with him, and then I was like, well, I like Brawl Link better anyway, so Project M worked out for it being like a good game for a Brawl Link main player, I guess. Because he's
Awesome.
really good in that game.
All right, so I want to talk about consistency.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking through your results on the Smash Wiki page, and I noticed something interesting from the beginning of your career. One of your first tournaments was Lust 1 back in 2015, and by mid-2017, you had attended Lust 23. But not just that, every single Lust tournament, without exception, in between. But you didn't just do this with Lust, you attended 36 Rockets tournaments in a row over the course of multiple years. How do you find the consistency to attend every single one of a tournament chain when they're not even like evenly spaced? It wasn't like it was the same day every month. It was like seemingly random.
Right.
How? That's my question. How?
I mean, the reality of the situation was that I was lucky to be born or like just be in a situation where like I was homeschooled and I had no interest in anything else at the time. Like I was like fully all in just like being able to spend like a lot of my time just playing Smash and then like doing the very like little amount of schoolwork that I had to do because I was like in online school and homeschool or whatever. And so it made it really easy where I wasn't doing anything else really, and there was only one thing I really liked to do. So it didn't really matter what day of the month it was. I wasn't really doing anything else anyway. A lot of my
for
like
two
all my
whole
free time.
years?
Yeah, yeah. I
That's
mean,
crazy.
it's yeah. I mean, I'm sure I missed like a couple like at some point.
You missed the very first Rockets tournament, and then you went to the next 35 in a row.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Again, like it just like I guess I also like grew up like like when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh, I kind of did the same thing. I would just like go every week because like it was just like part of like my schedule, I guess, and I was very used to doing it. So I didn't mind it, and I wasn't dedicating my time to anything else anyway. So it just kind of made sense, I guess, to just keep doing it, especially because like in the beginning, I wasn't like trying to become like the best player in Louisiana or like a top 100 player. I just really liked the game, and I would say that a big part of it was that I had a fiery competitive spirit for like a very long time. but I didn't really have the medium to express that or to really like embrace it, to deal with someone who would constantly like try to beat me over and over again,
Hmm.
or like me trying to beat them over and over again without giving up. And so Melee kind of fit that, where like it was like an endless stream of being able to like push myself, to learn, to try to achieve that goal that I like set. And eventually it's just like the goal got like bigger and bigger, where it was like, oh, I want to get PR. Oh, I want to beat top, or I want to be top 5 on the PR. I want to be top 3, and now I want to be number 1, and now I want to be top 100. And there was always just something to like target. And so I guess that made it easier to like, I want to give myself as many chances as possible, I guess.
Awesome. And why continue attending, the same, somewhat weekly tournaments rather than trying to, travel to better, bigger ones?
So if you're referring to out of state tournaments, I was under the age of like 18 at the time, and my mom was very uncomfortable with me traveling because I was so young, quote unquote young. You have to keep, my mom was like a little bit of a worry or whatever. So that was a big reason, was that she was concerned about me traveling without like them being there or whatever. So I just kind of had to stick with the weeklies and monthlies.
Gotcha. All right. So a lot of the players I've worked with in this series have been longtime veterans of the scene, playing for like half of their adult life, if not their entire childhood as well. But you didn't attend your first major until 2018, 2 years ago. And just 1 year after that, you're ranked in the top 50 in the world. That's like crazy fast progression, and like a dream of many Smash players who don't want to put in, those years that every player's talking about to get to the top. So what would you say was the biggest factor that allowed you to get so good so quickly and to up your career so quickly?
So I would say a big part of it was the weeklies and the monthlies and stuff, because like, I guess it was good that I was kind of stuck in Louisiana, because it made it to where I had to focus on like the specific skills necessary to beat the players that were above me, instead of me worrying about so much like, oh, I want to get out, I want to go out of state, I want to like get recognition, I want like a validation from like outside people. I was like, when I was in Louisiana, I was constantly growing, and I had partners and like our practice partners and teachers that really, really pushed me and really like brought me to be the player that I am today. And honestly, I was making progress the whole time. I was just not proving it by traveling out of state, I guess. So I was almost like climbing a mountain that I couldn't see above or below me, I guess. And so I would say I was realistically training for like the past 4 years before that, like a lot.
So by the time you had really, gone to your first major or anything, you were really already ready to do well.
Exactly, right? So like my super duper first major, or I guess it was like, I don't know what you would consider it. It was What the Fox 2. And I made it out of pools, and I lost round 1 like immediately. And so like that would probably make more sense to more people. Like, oh, okay, you're a couple of years into the game, you can make it out of pools, and like you lose melee, whatever. That makes sense. And I just like also on top of that did a lot of work, working on gameplay, working on mentality stuff. Again, like honestly, like my current boyfriend was a big reason why I became the player I am today, because he taught me so many concepts about learning, about, we went over matchups, we did everything. And it was like people like him that helped me. Like I improved so fast within the state, so that by the time I was going out of state, that I was like already just like ready to like beat people, and I was also ready to absorb as much information as I could, which helped a lot whenever I jumped from, maybe I was a fringe top 100 player when I first started traveling, but because of how good I was at learning through all the stuff that we went over, I was able to really boost myself after that point too. So it was a few factors, but I would say the biggest part was that I was practicing a lot before I traveled, for sure.
Cool. All right, so you're actually the first transgender person to make the top 100 in Melee. Knowing that the Melee community has somewhat of a reputation for not being flawlessly accepting of new ideas, it would go without saying that being transgender has not made your journey to a top-level player easier. I know, for example, that you believe your parents wouldn't be thrilled about the decision, and so you've asked on public broadcasts for commentators to still refer to you as he, him. But with so much content, social media posts, even articles, one that I read, talking about, your transition and your impact on the scene, it would seem like it would be nearly impossible and inevitable that the information would get out to them. So I wonder if you feel that now that you are out of the closet, at least to the Smash community, do you regret doing that, if not for any reason other than, the fear of your parents finding out, or do you think it was a great decision?
I think it was the right decision for what I needed to do to just like be safe in my house. my goal was always to like make sure that I could do it, and so that I wouldn't like put myself in danger. And like it sucks that I had to consider that, like, oh, like I should be able to express myself for who I am, and like, obviously my parents should care and all that stuff. But I understood the situation. I wasn't gonna like it's like kind of weird. I almost treated it like a bad matchup. It's like, well, it sucks that this is like this, but the only thing I can do is just play the matchup as best as I could. In which case, this was just like, I just wanted to make sure I would be safe. So that's why I did it the way I did. And I was just fortunate that my parents just like I'm sure my mom has like come across a couple things, and we just kind of agreed to not really talk about it. But as far as I know, my dad's completely in the dark, and it just like a little. I knew how much like monitoring they did over me, like in social media and stuff, and that's why like my Facebook still to this day has like nothing has changed about it. Versus like my Twitter, obviously, like I have a fucking OnlyFans link on there, like it's super fucking different. But that's because they don't check stuff like that,
Right.
So it was like a safety thing, and like I don't regret it really. Like it definitely was unfortunate, and like it did get in the way for sure. Like I would say that was probably like the biggest thing about like, or the biggest challenge was just like dealing with like the fear of my parents finding out, and like having to deal with the mental like stress of like my parents not accepting me, and just like seeing the harassment like trans people go through like every day, and all that's like very intimidating. That affected me. But I don't think it would have been. I think it would have been worse if I like had tried to risk it and like hope that my parents would just like chill out, because I think it was very possible for them to like feel even more negative about it, and then I end up in a situation where I can't play anymore. They don't want me going out. They think that like the internet corrupted me or something crazy like that. So
Yeah,
it was just what I had to do, I think.
fair enough. All right, so my last question. While I was doing the top 100 countdown video with Squid that I know you saw, he talked about how he believed that a good player could figure out a player worse than them in 10 minutes. He used this as why he switched to Peach for a year, because Peach makes every set last 10 minutes. And his example, his sort of proof, was you beating Mango, because you beat Mango so quickly in that best of 3 pools match that Mango, according to him, didn't have time to figure you out.
Sure.
And thus the set, if it had lasted longer, Mango would have won, in Squid's opinion. Do you agree that with a couple extra minutes of gameplay, Mango probably would have beat you, or do you think you were just better than him on the day?
It's so hard to be able to answer a question like that, because the reality of that set was that I was in the correct condition for me to beat Mango, and he was in the correct condition for him to lose. And
Okay.
so it's possible, like that's why I said earlier, it's like, oh, like maybe if that was like a best of 5, I would have lost, or maybe I would have been able to pull it through anyway. But I don't know. It's so hard because there's so many extra factors. Because like even if you just think about the best of 3, like I was like a couple frames away from losing that set if I missed like the fast fall for the ledge tech, or if I missed the ledge dash for the after the like I grabbed ledge, or if you actually go back frame by frame, when I read his double jump on the last stock, he was 1 frame away from touching the ground and like avoiding like him like jumping in general at all. And that could have changed everything too. So it's like in a best of 5 against Peach, then yeah, there's like a whole lot of things that change. Or like even if it's just like the Falco did in a best of 5 and we just happen to play longer, like so many things could have happened that like it's so hard to tell, because like Melee is just like that weird of a game where like any small thing can just like ruin everything. So I have no idea, but it's definitely not the most unreasonable thing. And I would say in general, in the longer set, the better player would win, and I think Mango is a much better player than I am. So it's definitely reasonable to believe that, and I'm okay with that theory, despite competitively wanting to prove it wrong.
So let's say Corona's done, quarantine goes away, the next major comes around. You are versus Mango and say top 32. Do you win or do you lose?
I think I'm gonna get fucking bodied. I am so much worse than I like, or not worse. I'm a better player for sure, but like in general compared to the set when I played him. But like I have not been practicing. I am not disciplined at all during the quarantine, and I definitely would get washed. I think even against like a drunk Mango who's barely practicing as well.
All right. Well, awesome. That's all I got for you. Thank you for joining me.
Of course.
It is your time to plug what you have going on. Anything you talk about will be linked in the description.
Yeah, so I pretty much I'm a Twitch streamer nowadays during quarantine. I'm not playing all that much Melee. Like I guess I'm entering like the net play tournaments, but all of my stuff is on Twitch and Twitter right now. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have at SSB Magi on Twitter, and then twitch.tv/SSB Magi. I stream periodically, inconsistently as well. So you have to follow me on Twitter to find all that stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.